What's up, Bills Mafia? Buffalo is back in the headlines as Week 11 draws closer and the showdown with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers looms large. The front office isn't sitting still. General Manager Brandon Beane has been working the phones and pulling strings, making roster moves that could quietly become game changers for the rest of the season. Before we dive into the latest news, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and don't forget to press the bell icon, that way you'll never miss a single update from Buffalo. Now, let's get to the new news. The Bills roster carousel continues to spin. Buffalo released defensive end Kingsley Jonathan and wide receiver Christian Wilkerson from the practice squad, two players who gave solid effort but couldn't quite make the jump to the active roster. With depth questions at defensive line and wide receiver, the Bills needed a spark, and Beane may have found one. Enter Morgan Fox, a name that could end up being more impactful than most realize. The 6'3" defensive end comes out of Colorado State Pueblo, where he helped lead a Division II powerhouse to a national title. Fox went undrafted in 2016 but carved out a strong NFL resume, spending 4 seasons with the Rams, a year with the Panthers, and then several with the Chargers, where he had a breakout campaign in 2022 with 42 quarterback pressures and 6.5 sacks. Now he lands in Buffalo, and honestly, it's surprising he was even available. Fox brings veteran experience, durability, and a motor that fits perfectly with Sean McDermott's defensive mindset. He's the kind of under-the-radar addition that doesn't make headlines in October but might win you a critical drive in December. Morgan Fox isn't just another depth signing, he's a player with a real NFL resume and a track record that demands attention. Over the past 2 seasons, he's totaled 9 sacks, proving that when given snaps, he delivers. But what makes this move even more intriguing is his experience in the biggest moments. Fox was part of that Rams squad that battled the Patriots in the Super Bowl. He's been through the grind, the pressure, and the playoff fire. That kind of experience is gold for a Buffalo team looking to fortify its defensive front heading into the stretch run. When you look at the Bills' current situation, Fox might not be sitting on the practice squad for long. Buffalo's defensive line has taken hit after hit this year. Dwayne Carter and Micah Hyde are both done for the season. Ed Oliver is nursing a torn bicep and may not return until deep into the playoffs, and Landon Jackson's knee injury, involving both the MCL and PCL, leaves his future uncertain. It's been a brutal run for a unit that prides itself on rotation and physical dominance. That's why the Fox signing matters. This is a guy who's played in big games, stayed healthy, and produced consistent pressure throughout his career. He's not flashy, but he's dependable, the kind of player who can quietly change the tone of a defense just by doing his job at a high level. Buffalo's pass rush needs someone who can step in and absorb snaps right away, and Fox fits that bill perfectly. His strength, technique, and experience against top-tier offensive lines could give the Bills some much-needed stability in the trenches. When the postseason race tightens, having a veteran like Morgan Fox ready to go might end up being one of Brandon Beane's smartest under-the-radar decisions this season. Another move that's flying under the radar in Buffalo is the return of Mecole Hardman. The speedy wideout rejoined the Bills' practice squad earlier this week and wasted no time getting involved in team drills. During his first practice, he joked about needing to build that chemistry with Josh Allen, noting he felt a little out of sync in the receiver circle. But you could already see flashes of why this addition could pay off. Now, let's be real, Hardman isn't expected to walk in and become Buffalo's top target. His production has dipped since his breakout 2021 season, when he posted nearly 700 receiving yards and averaged close to 12 yards per catch. Still, his explosiveness and experience in big moments can't be ignored. This is the same player who helped Kansas City capture a Super Bowl, delivering when the lights were brightest. The key for Buffalo might not even be his role on offense, it's what he brings on special teams. The Bills have struggled badly in the return game this year, ranking near the bottom of the league with an average of just 5.8 yards per punt return. Hardman, meanwhile, owns a career average of over 10 yards per return and has already earned All-Pro honors for his work as a returner. That's a difference you can measure on the scoreboard. Every hidden yard counts, and Hardman's ability to flip field position could take real pressure off Allen and the offense. Sean McDermott highlighted Hardman's speed and versatility this week, calling him a multi-phase asset who can help in both the return game and on offense. At practice, Hardman lined up primarily as a returner before joining receiver drills, a clear sign of the Bills' immediate intentions. But with Buffalo's receiving core lacking consistent production, don't be surprised if he starts taking live snaps sooner rather than later. For a team searching for a spark, this is exactly the kind of mid-season addition that could reignite the momentum. Hardman's speed threatens defenses every time he touches the ball, and if he can bring even one explosive play a week, a long return, a quick slant that turns into a 40-yard gain, his burst and route running are critical to rebalancing this offense and giving Josh Allen a reliable vertical threat again. There's more good news. Jordan Phillips, who's been nursing a wrist issue, was a full participant. And defensive tackle TJ Sanders, recently activated from injured reserve, wasted no time jumping back into full-speed drills. Sanders underwent a minor knee procedure earlier in the year, but reports from the field suggest he looked sharp and confident, even if the Bills are still easing him back in without full contact. Observers at practice noted that Sanders moved fluidly and showed no visible limitations. If he continues progressing through padded sessions, there's every reason to believe he'll suit up against Tampa Bay. That kind of reinforcement couldn't come at a better time for a Bills defense that's been tested week after week by injuries and depth concerns. As for Palmer, coaches and teammates said this was the best he's looked in weeks. His return could be a quiet turning point. Buffalo's receiving group has struggled to find separation, and Palmer's ability to stretch the field vertically could force defenses to back off, opening lanes for Allen and the run game. However, the rest of the injury list isn't nearly as cheerful. Christian Benford remains limited with a groin issue, Terrell Bernard continues to fight through an ankle injury, and Taron Johnson also sat out portions of practice with a groin problem. Both Johnson and Benford missed last Sunday's game, and their status will be closely monitored as the Bills prepare to face Tampa Bay's aggressive receiving core. Nickel defender Cam Lewis is also working through a calf injury, and as history shows, those tend to linger. His absence would hurt Buffalo's depth in sub-packages, forcing more adjustments in the secondary. Even Joey Bosa, playing with a cast on his wrist, remains limited, adding another layer of uncertainty to a defense that's had to get creative with rotations. Still, for all the setbacks, the tone inside the building feels different this week. The return of multiple starters and the gradual healing across the roster signal that Buffalo's toughest stretch might finally be turning a corner. The injury list in Buffalo just keeps growing, and this week was no exception. Khalil Shaki is battling through both ankle and rib issues, gutting it out but clearly not at full strength. Shaq Thompson continues to rehab a stubborn hamstring that sidelined him in Week 10, and Dorian Williams is also dealing with a groin injury, another linebacker fighting to stay on the field. None of them are completely healthy, and their availability heading into Week 11 remains uncertain. Tight end Dalton Kincaid headlines the players who didn't practice Wednesday. His hamstring issue is expected to keep him out for multiple weeks, leaving a major hole in Buffalo's short yardage and red zone offense. Meanwhile, Phidarian Mathis, recently added to the active roster, missed practice with a shoulder injury. It's fortunate that TJ Sanders returned just in time, because depth on the defensive line would be dangerously thin otherwise. At this point in the season, it feels like the Bills are fighting two opponents every week, the team across from them and the injury bug that just won't go away. Every Sunday brings another setback, another adjustment, another test of resilience. Buffalo's depth has been pushed to the limit, forcing the front office to constantly cycle through signings just to keep the roster balanced. And yet, despite the frustration, there's still a belief inside the building that this group can weather the storm. The Bills have been here before, banged up, written off, doubted, and somehow, they find a way to respond. This next stretch will be a true test of their toughness and leadership, with Josh Allen and the veterans tasked with keeping the locker room steady while reinforcements heal. On the other sideline, Tampa Bay is slowly getting healthier. Chris Godwin and Bucky Irving both return to limited practice representatives, though it's unclear if they'll be ready to go by Sunday. That could make a huge difference in Buffalo's defensive game plan, but for now, the focus stays inward, on recovery, preparation, and execution. The road ahead won't be easy, but this is where great teams are forged. If the Bills can survive this wave of injuries and rediscover their rhythm, they'll emerge battle-tested and ready for the late-season push. The mindset is simple: bend, don't break. As Week 11 approaches, the message inside One Bill's drive couldn't be clearer: next man up, keep the energy, and keep fighting. Let's go, Buffalo.